Welcome back. If you haven't seen the last video on Dubrovnik, make sure to go check that out. In this video, I'll be taking you along the Dubrovnik City Walls with epic views. I'll show you hidden statues and cafes along the wall that you can dive into the ocean from, how the city withstood sieges, and of course, the tidbits that folks often miss about the history and ingenuity of the Ragusan people that lived in this UNESCO city. So this is the entrance to the city walls, right by Nufri's fountain, and these are all the stairs you gotta go up to get there. Reports on how many stairs there actually are on the wall vary from 1,000 to 750. Just be prepared. The stairs are steep and there's a lot of them, so make sure that you have good quadriceps or someone to hang on to if you have bad knees. Whew, that was quite the climb. So this northern side of the walls is actually the highest point, and Minceta Fortress is probably the best viewpoint that you'll get, but we'll get to that at the very end of the tour of the walls. The northern side actually defended against the Slavs, who were on the other side of Mount Surd, which is this mountain right behind me. So let's head on down to the city walls and I'll show you all of the best highlights and points of things you need to see along the way. So this little pier right underneath Fort Bokar, this is actually where Jon Snow came out to go to the wall in Exile. We got more stairs. Wow, these are kind of steep. So right behind me here, this is part of the wall. This is called Fort Bokar, and all of these little outcroppings actually have a specific name. In the back, you see Fort Lovrijenac, and this is a fort that was built by the citizens of Dubrovnik when they got wind that the Venetians were gonna come and build their own fortress here. So within 3 months, all of the citizens came together, helped pile the stones, and build the entire fortress to thwart the efforts of the powerful Venetians from taking over the city by having their own fortress here, where it could be on the higher peak here and able to better attack and throw cannons into the city. You can see some of these old ruins of the city here. This is so cool. This is another one of those bucket list moments where you find yourself in a place that just seems like a dream because it's so cool. Right down here you can see this little stairway. This is Buza Cafe, and this is where you can go and snorkel and swim in the ocean right off of their cafe, but it's very wavy and windy and probably not safe to do that today. But if you are here in Dubrovnik on a hot day, that is the perfect place to go and cool off, grab a drink, and enjoy the stunning views of the ocean, the Adriatic Sea. So right behind me here, this is Fort St. Margaret, and each of the little outcroppings here each have a name and kind of dedicated to a saint as a way to protect the people who are defending them. This St. Margaret Fort is just past Cafe Buza, and it is the furthest point on the southern side of the walls, jutting out into the ocean. This is where you can really watch the boats go in and out of the port, just like they did in medieval times. At the base of this fort, you can actually see a statue of Saint Blaise beneath the guard tower. This fort was built in the Renaissance style in the 16th century, and it's a fantastic location for a panoramic view of the old town. You can see Lokrum Island across from this fortress, and it's one of the best spots to take a break along the walk of the city walls because it is a large rest area. We're going to head over to Fort Stephen. This is one of the youngest fortifications in the city wall, and it was built in the 17th century. The building of the wall of these city walls lasted around 500 years. This entire city is named a UNESCO heritage site because of how well preserved these walls are. I was saying that this Lokrum Island is actually where Napoleon Bonaparte built a fortress on top of it. And then it also has its own lake and is a great spot. This is where all of the kayakers go, right over in this area. And then the fort was right on top of the island there. Oh, this is so cool. So the whole walk itself is about 1.7 miles, I think. 1.6, I'll put it right here. But the stairs aren't as bad as I thought they were gonna be. But you definitely want to make sure you can at least go up 3 flights of stairs in order to do this without feeling totally fatigued. Now, Minceta Fortress, that one has around 750 stairs. So you just have to decide whether you want to do that or not. We are trying to beat the rain. So we're about halfway through the walls at this point. And I'm hoping we can get to Minceta Fortress before it totally rains buckets on us. But that's supposed to be the best view of the city and the most reminiscent of the Game of Thrones views that you would often get during the show. So I know we said we were trying to beat the rain, but what other time in life can you say that you've sat on a medieval wall in one of the coolest cities in Europe drinking a fresh squeezed orange juice? I mean, you gotta live a little, right? So delicious. All right, Erin, what do you think of the walls so far?
The wall is amazing. If I could jump off it, I would, because the water is so beautiful, and I'm really happy to be in King's Landing.
Queen Genevieve
Queen
III.
Genevieve III, first of her name.
So they do take card and cash here, but I just want to warn you that this orange juice is 49 kuna. Dubrovnik was no stranger to war. They were able to withstand 2 18-month sieges from the Ottomans. Their innovations and advancements of not just artillery but defense strategies is what helped them. So right now we are at Fort St. Ivan, or Mulo Tower. Now this tower is really unique because in the bay here, when ships would try to enter that were on the offensive or trying to attack Dubrovnik, they would actually have a chain attached to this tower, and then it would rest on the bottom and attach to the other side, so that when they were under attack, they would tighten that chain, and then the ships would actually be kind of cut in half. Such a cool defense mechanism. Just shows you the ingenuity of the people that lived here. So this pier is where Ilaria Sand kissed Marcella with the long farewell poison kiss as she was leaving Dorn. Now, this bay is where, if you look on the other side here where that tower is, that is Rector's Palace, and this is where all of the shipping and trade would come in. Often these archways were actually where they would bring in the ships to shelter them. And now we have this gorgeous bay we get to enjoy. And just on the other side over here, if you walk over here, this is where the beach area is. The beach area is where they actually had the second leprosy colony or quarantine area. Dubrovnik was one of the first places to actually impose a quarantine area. So kind of a cool fact about the city. These people were so advanced. From the 13th century garbage men having to have the shopkeepers keep their the shop fronts clean all the time. There's so much about this city that people don't realize or know that is often missed. This city, because it is basically made out of all stone. The reason it is because it was plagued by fires all the time. There's so much I want to tell you, but I feel like I'm going to bore you if I talk too much because I get those complaints all the time on YouTube. So let's keep going on the city walls. Where they got their wealth was from shipbuilding and the salt trade. And that was the major exports that they had. Imports, they had fresh water, they had fruits, they had vegetables, as well as wine. Something I found incredibly fascinating is that Dubrovnik was one of the first cities to abolish slavery. It was on the January 27th, 1416, that a vote passed to forbid any kind of slave trade, and no ships entering the harbor were allowed to carry slaves. From one history book, I read this quote: "Such a trade to be ugly, nefarious, and abominable, and against all humanity, and that it constitutes not a small burden and infamy to our city. That is, that human species, made to the image and similarity of our Creator, should be converted to merchandise and be sold as if they were brute animals." It just goes to show how advanced and inclusive these people were, even in the 14th and 15th century. So this is the Jesuit College. This is the Dubrovnik Cathedral. Church of St. Blaise is in this area. And then you have Rector's Palace and Sponsa Palace. And then over here, we're going back over to Lovrijenac Fortress right here. This is kind of the Pile Gate area. And then Minceta Tower is right here. And underneath, it's not part of the city walls, but that's where the artillery museum is. That is supposed to be quite incredible. So that is the end of the city walls. Now we are on our way to go get some lunch because I think after all those stairs, we've earned it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend because more the merrier. And I will see you in the next one where we will be touring the best places to eat in Dubrovnik and going on a split day tour.